works, people feel empowered because they feel in control. And this is what you want. You want to have people that feel in control with easy measurements or with easy techniques. You don't want to, we want to make it, we want to make life easy, not more difficult. So that's what I try to do. Next slide, please. Sorry. Next slide. Yeah. So, and that was then the heart rate. What we also do is measuring the EDA, so the endormal electrodermal activity. So it's like the trans. It's like the sweat of your palms, and we use it also. We use the electrodes on the palms as well, so on your fingers, and we measure the sweat, because if you are in fear or in stress, you produce more sweat than if you are very relaxed. Also, if you exercise, you produce more sweat. So this activity you can measure, and it's really fast. So it's almost directly. So somebody feels, they call it arousal. So someone feels like excited or scared or stressed. Then you see a sudden, like it goes up, and you see suddenly something happen. And we use this method, for example, for girls who came from a sexually abusive relationship. So in Holland we have the term called lover boys, and these are boys that force girls into prostitution. And this is a big problem in Holland. We have like a huge amount of girls from in the age in between 13 and 28 years old who become victims of these lover boys. And many times, if some girl has been abused in their past, maybe, it doesn't matter how, but sexually abused in the past, in 2 or 3 times, the case is that it will become a pattern, and they will once again fall victim to sexually abused when they are an adult. And this is a very, we want to break this pattern. And to break this pattern, you need to have these girls feel in control also, because many times girls who have been, been abused, they don't feel anymore. So they are very distant from their bodies. So what you want is to measure what is their body doing, so they can see themselves how they react, but also the therapist can see how they react. And this is beneficial. Actually, the girls we are worked with, they really like to see how it works. So we show them, for example, videos of very scary videos on YouTube, and then you see the stress level go up, and they find it very funny that it works like that. So it's all also, of course, with their consent that they measure these signals from these girls. And next video of, sorry, next slide, please. So, for example, these girls can then become in this situation where there is this 360 video we made, like a 360 video tool with 15 videos of situations girls can practice with intimidating men in a safe environment. So this boy, for example, invited this girl to come over for a Netflix movie. And as soon as he opened the door, you see in his face that he's up to something more. He don't only want to watch a Netflix movie. He wants to have sex with the girl. actually. And that this is also you can see that in the eyes of the boy. And if you're the person with the headset on, you feel like you are in the situation with this boy, and then we make this girl conscious about, do you know what you step into? Do you know if you go into this house that he's more interested in not only watching a movie, but maybe also want more from you? And then if she's conscious, she can make also a conscious choice, a healthy choice. But maybe she wants to be in this situation. That's also a possibility. But as long as if she's conscious about what is she doing, we make people with these videos, we make them conscious about in which situations they step into. And here they sit on the couch, and you see he's already really close. And if you have the VR headset on, it's like you are in the body of the girl, and it feels really like the boy is touching you. And it's really, really interesting how effective this is. Okay, next slide, please. So here also a situation, this is happening also many times. So we got these scenarios, these scenarios by interviewing these girls and their therapists. So we interviewed girls who've been in intimidating situations, and we after this interview we made these scenarios in a 360 video. And this is one scenario that a girl is out for dancing, for example, in a club or disco, and then she comes out and just maybe smoking a cigarette, I don't know, and or to have a little bit of fresh air. And then these strange guys come up to them, and actually first they start talking, and then they want to kiss. And this is we can teach them then, is this what you want? How would you react? How can you say no in uncomfortable situations with men or boys? How can you react in a healthy way? How can you be empowered in a way so you don't do anything what you actually don't want to do? Because many times it's that they don't know how to react. And then what they do many times, for example, with the girls, they start laughing, like giggling, because it's just insecurity. It's not that they like it, it's insecurity. And that's why they start laughing in a way that the guy thinks, oh, she likes it, and goes on. So this is very important to make girls and boys more conscious about. And with these tools, with 360 video or virtual reality tools, you can make people conscious like never before. We never could do this in this way. So it's so powerful to empower people in this way. Okay, next slide. I hope this is a video. Yeah. Ja, je wil alleen. Doe je vanaf dan, hè? Maar niet koud. Ga je heen? Hé! Blijf staan, joh. Blijf staan. Hé, meisje. Hé. Ziet er goed uit, hè? Want loop door, joh, hoor. Hé, luister even dan. Hè? Kut wij. Ga je met me mee vanavond? Even hoor, joh. Wat is allemaal? Zetje. Hé, luister dan. Hè? Kom dan. Hè? Jezus, ze luistert niet eens, joh. Hè? Jezus, man. Fucking hoer, joh, ben je. So, is the video ended?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good to know. So this is one of the videos. It's in Dutch, so you probably didn't understand it all. But this is a dark alley where where this girl walks into, and she gets harassed. She sees a group of boys, and she walks on, but she could have also maybe walked back. What can you do in these situations? You know, maybe she had a phone in her hand. You didn't see it, but she had a phone in her hand. She could have been acting like she was calling, for example, calling someone that maybe feels guys that they are they be more careful what they're doing. So there's different things you can teach people to be more empowered in these kind of situations. So, yeah, any questions? Next slide, please.
All right, we'll turn on the hand raise button. There we go. Yeah. So everybody can ask a question.
Yeah.
Anybody got a question?
No, that's good then.
And if anybody has a question, just click the raise hand. Oh, we do have a question. Here we go. All right, Evelyn, you're on.
Hey, so I was wondering what you found that the limitations were of these 360-degree videos and the usage of them.
Yeah, so there are some limitations. 360 video is taped before, so you need to really know and understand what can be the reaction of these girls, for example. So you really need to know beforehand all the reactions that are possible, and you need to have a video after that that will react to their reaction to their story. So and this is how we made, for example, a tree, we called it. I don't know if that's the best name for English, but a tree of videos. Like you have this video and there's two reactions possible, probably more, but we now have two reactions possible, and which reaction she gives, there's other two videos reacting on that. And this is all how you say it, by the coach or therapist. She can choose the videos from the laptop. So it's in the Oculus Go is attached, not attached to the laptop, but it's bedienen. Zeg je bedienen? Controlled by the laptop. As a therapist, you have control over the videos. Yes. So, and that's difficult. So with interactive, smart, intelligent VR, you know, of course, then the virtual reality person or avatar can react on you, and that is more interesting for in the future. But this is now so expensive that now we choose rather to do it with 360 video, and it really looks, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Anyone else with a question or a comment?
No problem. I've been already doing a presentation today, so.
I have a question.
Good.
How long have you been smoking cigars?
No, I don't smoke at all. I don't know why this cough is just not, and especially if I talk about the cough, it's getting worse.
That makes it worse. Maybe you should go see a therapist.
Yeah, or a doctor. No, it's been like 3 weeks coming and going, so I hope.
I have the same thing right now. I don't feel bad. I don't even smoke cigars.
But I don't hear a cough. Okay, anybody else?
No, I guess that was a sufficient talk. If everybody up to speed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much.
You did a great job.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for hosting, Ron. Yeah, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
If everybody wants to follow her into the social space, y'all can continue the conversation as well. Yeah, Ron, that was really good. It was a good event.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for coming.
did we go get Laurel now, or Donna or somebody? No, I don't know neither. Ron, do you know what we would be doing next?
Here we go. I have no idea what we're doing next.
Okay. Me neither.
That was a fun talk.
I can hear you.
I said that was a fun talk.
Oh, that was a very.
Ties into their curriculum, and they've got the blinders on and they're focusing on one. That's fantastic because they're starting somewhere. The goal in the end is to create a cohort or to create a community, and this is something that I'm really grassroots, just getting started with. I know Jennifer Williams and Priscilla Herrera, they are doing some great things with SDGs. I've got their social cards in here for you to connect you guys to, because I don't want to be your only resource for SDGs. I want to expose you to everyone who's doing amazing things in that area. And obviously, Caitlin, you are as well. But the goal is to let students find their voice, their choice, and what they're passionate about solving. Because the idea is that, content's great, and it's great to connect it to content. But really, what I want to facilitate in students and in their voice is to let them find problems that they're passionate about, because the passion piece is what's going to see them through to the end solution. And there's a high school in Plano, Texas that is they don't have the rigid bell schedule. They do flow, and they teach problem-based, like legitimately problem-based curriculum, to where students work on problems for 4 to 6 weeks at a time, and they have the opportunity to carry that to keep continuing the work on that problem from 9th to 12th grade. And they have capstone projects at the end where they actually present to an authentic audience, and they've been trained by Toyota on their design thinking approach to problem solving and designing. So,
Lamo. All right. Let's see. Here we are. Hey. So. Set up. Hey, let's see. All right, you can hear me all right now?
Yep. I got you.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey there. I'm Nevyn Bengtsson. I'm a code poet and founder of the Alloverse. Many thanks to Daniel and Laurel for inviting me to speak at this wonderful conference, because I'm used to being on stage to talk about iOS development, and being up here to talk about VR is new to me. It's a really exciting personal milestone, so I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really excited to have all of you here listening, so thanks for that. So my team and I are building a Metaverse platform called Alloverse. In short, we're trying to create the spatial open web. So that's a future for the internet where we build our communities in 3 dimensions, and we do so with tools from all over the web, not in locked-in walled gardens. So we want to create collaborative workspaces, virtual places where you can work, teach, and play together. So our principles are open by design, collaborative by design, and the standard for spatial user interface design. And to understand what these 3 mean, let me give you some background. And we'll do questions afterwards. So the background I want to talk about is the failure of productive multitouch and VR. So I've been an iOS developer for well over a decade, and I worked at Spotify first, building large parts of their initial iPhone and iPad apps, and I went on to found Lookback, a UX research platform with customers such as Facebook and Etsy. And I chose iOS as my career because I knew in 2004 or whenever it was, when I watched Jeff Hahn present his FTIR multi-touch prototype computer, that multi-touch would be the future of computing. Everybody would use their fingertips instead of mice to interact with computers, because it means we can use our hands to directly manipulate what we're working with instead of through abstractions like the mouse and keyboard. So while it's true that everybody carries around a multi-touch smartphone nowadays, the multi-touch revolution didn't really impact professional computer usage. So I was personally particularly disillusioned by the iPad Pro and its utter inability to provide intuitive apps for professionals that are nice to use in real life. So I started looking to VR and AR for that, super intuitive, direct manipulation computing platform that I had dreamed of and which I knew would change computers forever. So VR, right? It's awesome. But doing productive work in VR is also hard. Apps are in here all designed to be all-encompassing, taking over your entire virtual universe. And so working with two apps at the same time, side by side, is nearly impossible. And, switching apps can take minutes. Adding to that, every app reinvents spatial computing and has its own interface and interaction patterns and mappings of controls and so on. When you're working collaboratively on a computer, like on a computer monitor, you can just call over your colleague and you can work together on that screen pretty easily, but you can't do that in VR. So the only way to really do collaborative VR with network support, like network connectivity, and that's still really unusual in VR and uncommon because it's really hard. So I started thinking, what if you could create your own little virtual place and then start your apps into that space together with you? And maybe then you could also invite your friends, right? Your colleagues and students into that same space. So I started looking to social VR to see if anybody was having the same ideas on how to build this collaborative workspace, but they all seem to be taking inspiration from Facebook on how to architect software platforms. And that thing that's a pet peeve of mine is closed platforms and walled gardens, because the platform mandates what and how to build for it. So say you gather a class in VR chat or a rec room and you want to teach them a mathematical concept using a simple in-world game, you'd have to build such a thing inside of, say, Rec Room, using only the tools and capabilities Rec Room have anticipated you need. And I say Rec Room because it's one of the only ones you can actually extend that way. And so it is really limiting. And the result is that every education app that also wants social capabilities, or most of them have to they have to be built natively, and then you have to reinvent everything, all the spatial interaction patterns, the network code, the voice communication, and all that. So based on these limitations, we get back to the principles of the Alloverse. So I was dissatisfied with this situation, and in 2017, I started designing the Alloverse as seemingly just another social VR platform, but it had a really important distinction that set it apart from the other ones. And that's, in the Alloverse, users and apps can join virtual worlds on the same terms. And let me restate that. So software running anywhere on the internet can, if given permission, join the same virtual space as you, and you both have the same ability to interact with each other and other people and other things in the space. And I know that this concept and the implications of it can be a bit difficult to grasp at first, because I've explained it hundreds of times by now, and the most common reaction is a blank stare. And it took me years to reach this point as well. So I figured, let me try some visualizations and compare it to normal web browsing and see if it's more intuitive after that. So here's how most everybody is doing it. So on the left, these cute little animals are, that's you with your VR headset, right? So on your headset, you open up Altspace, and what you're doing is Altspace connects to Altspace's servers. So this big fluffy cloud here, that's Altspace's part of the internet, their cloud, and the boxes are their servers. So opening Altspace and joining their servers, that's similar to how you would just, you would go to a website and you end up at that website. So, but every Altspace world and Altspace event and avatar, those are stored in Altspace's database. It's theirs, and it's loaned to you. So if you want to do something with Altspace, it must be something that their world simulation and database is capable of, right? And this is very similar to how using, say, Facebook works. Every photo, status, and like belongs to Facebook, and you go there to facebook.com to view them, right? And Facebook decides what content you can post, and every innovation on that network is done by Facebook's developers. So let's contrast that to how the Alloverse does it. The Alloverse provides spaces on our own server, so this middle cloud here can now be our servers at Alloverse, but it's open source. So anybody can set up their own Alloverse place on their own servers if they want to. So the middle cloud could belong to anyone. And this part is more akin to good old personal blogging. Anybody could set up their own blog, and not Facebook nor anyone else can say what or how you put things on it, right? It belongs to you. And I'll explain the rest of this diagram with an example. Say we want to go to, this time let's say Nevyn's classroom. We tap a link in the Quest web browser, and we end up in the Alloverse place called Nevyn's classroom, right? Like before. This time it's empty, and we want a whiteboard in there. So we tap a link again in the Quest web browser and for a whiteboard app. And instead of going to a web page or going to a different place or space or virtual environment, that whiteboard appears in Nevyn's classroom with us. And so maybe we want to teach something about the solar system when we found a simulation app for that, and we launch it, and it too appears in the space next to the whiteboard. And now we can invite our students, voila, and they're in our classroom, and class begins. So here's the kicker. Not only are places like websites, apps are as well. So these apps don't have to exist on your Quest. They don't have to exist on Alloverse's servers either. Anybody on the internet can write an Alloverse app just like anybody could build a website. So on the left, you're connecting to the Alloverse sites, and we got our web server or our servers here, and then on the right here, completely different parts of the internet. So this whiteboard app and this solar system app, those are running somewhere else. They're not on the Alloverse servers. So this, hopefully the principles now make sense, and you'll understand how that makes us different from anything else on the market. So the first principle was distributed and open by design, and that means no single company can own the Alloverse, just like no single company can own the web. And also, Alloverse defines the low-level protocols and APIs as open standards, so anybody could build to them, and anybody with the know-how could even build their own headset app, just like anybody could theoretically build their own web browser. Just need some water. It is very difficult to drink water in VR.
You need to get
all right, so
facts.
yeah, I should have one of those. Well, let's head over to the second principle, which was collaborative by design. So any application built for the Alloverse becomes usable by multiple people at the same time in that virtual spatial environment. You don't have to do anything special to make it collaborative. And in fact, you can't write an Alloverse app that isn't collaborative. You know, like if you have a physical object in the real world, like a whiteboard, it is automatically collaborative. You can pick up a pen and work together on it with your friend, and there's nothing stopping you because it's right in front of you. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to sign up for anything. So for the third principle, that's a standard for social spatial interaction and experience design. And so that's Alloverse defines human interface guidelines that all app developers should adhere to when designing their apps, so that when you learn one app, all other apps feel intuitive and natural. So the thing you're probably asking at this point is, what would the field of education look like in the Alloverse? Well, as educators, you probably know the trials of loading up the right software for a class, right? Perhaps you're choosing from dozens different social VR apps like this conference to find the one that fits whatever you're trying to teach in that specific class. And that means you have to know them all well enough to switch maybe multiple times a day. And maybe you're finding that your favorite new educational app that you found on the Oculus store or something is single user. So if you want to teach that in a remote environment, your students would have to switch back and forth between the social app and the education app. So with the Alloverse, we really want to enable you to do all of your VR education in a single virtual room and headset app, no matter what the material you're teaching is or the requirements of this specific class, and regardless if it's local or remote. So to restate those principles in terms of benefits to you as educators, I started out with open by design, and for you that means that you're not locked into a single platform. If a vendor, hikes prices or shuts down, you only have to replace that one component. Say you had a note-taking app that was an Alloverse app, or the vendor you're using as your virtual class, you're renting your virtual classroom from, you can just replace that one component rather than replacing your entire teaching suite. And that should be as easy as just switching web browsers. And since it's all a standard rather than an app owned by a single developer, there's a whole community of developers that are making educational tools for you. And finally, if you have developers in-house or on contract, they can build new tools and apps for you without any contract or deal with Alloverse, the corporation, because it's an open standard. You just build to it. You can just build it. And finally, collaborative by design means that in the Alloverse, any education app or tool you find is always multi-user and can be taken into the virtual classroom with you. And this means all your VR education is social, and your students can work on it on these virtual tools and together and talk about it in real time. And finally, any education app you find will be using the same interaction patterns and work the same way. With a set of common design guidelines and standards, every app uses buttons and gestures the same way, you scroll the same way, you click confirm the same way, and so on. So using a new app feels consistent and intuitive and easy because, it works like every other app. And so UX doesn't become a roadblock to learning. The user experience of educational app doesn't become a roadblock to the actual teaching you're there to do. All right, so enough with the principles. Let's see how you would actually use Alloverse in a regular classroom. So in a local classroom, our go-to headset right now is the Oculus Quest. So say a teacher and students all have Quests, and you want to have a VR class, you do something like this. So before the class, you would go to the Alloverse website and rent a virtual place to use as your classroom, or some other place renting out servers for you. And you'd open that up on your Quest, and from the Quest web browser, you could find apps that you want to use, such as, the whiteboard app, a math tutoring app, or whatever, and click the links in the web browser so they show up in your classroom. And then during class, you can use something like Grove Learning, which is an amazing tool, and I deeply recommend, to open the same classroom URL on all the headsets in the classroom at the same time. So your students join the same virtual space as you immediately. And now you can teach your class in VR using the math tutoring app or whatever, and other virtual tools you find together with your students in VR. And a remote classroom isn't really that different. The only difference is how you get your students into the room. Maybe you just email that URL to your students, and they click it and they join the room when they're ready. And then you and your students can really be anywhere in the world and still learn together in the same virtual classroom. And this works just as well whether you teach school class or you're a freelancer looking to teach clients. Say you're a music teacher and you find Alloverse piano app, you could do piano tutoring in VR. Just send them a calendar invite with the Alloverse place in it instead of a physical location, and off you go, right? Or say you're a design freelancer and you just finished a project. You want to educate the team on the new design system you built. Bring your designs into a shared web browser in Alloverse Place. Design that virtual space, maybe with some canvases, brainstorming tools, and stuff like that. And then invite your team with a URL, and off you go. And similarly, at a larger corporation, you might even have developers in-house. And in this case, you could build your own teaching tools, bring them into VR with Alloverse, and teach your employees in VR instead of flying them halfway across the world, which I think is pretty great. So all that sounds lovely, but what does reality look like? Fact is, we're just getting started. We have a long way to go. We got head and hand movement in there. We got some voice communication, some low-level APIs. But we still need a lot, like avatars, asset pipeline, some way to distribute apps, and so on. I figured I'd show you a GIF. It's not much yet, but there's a lot that has built to make this possible. Here we have two users in VR, and you can see hands and faces, and you can actually talk. You can't hear that in a GIF, of course, but they can actually talk to each other. That's about it so far. Because although Alloverse is open source and has been developing since 2018, we incorporated Alloverse AB only this January 2020. And now we're a team of 6 people who are ramping up development from hobby and side project to full-time job. Those 6 people are these wonderful creatures. It's me, Tobias, Emma, and Patrick that write the code to make this happen. Julie down here is the CEO and steers the ship, makes sure we get to market. And Eleanor down there makes sure that it's all functional and pretty. So this is the second startup I've founded, and I'm really proud of the people that come together and the culture we form together. Because we're doing this because it's enriching to do something good for the world, while at the same time applying our passions. And we're not doing this to get rich. Our primary value is that everybody is happy and doing this out of joy rather than pushing people to be the most productive. And I think that's really important in company culture, to build something nice together. Yeah, I think that's great. So we got these 6 people, but we also need you people to build this beautiful future we're envisioning. We would really love your support. We want you to join us on this journey, because we're so early in development. So your opinions and ideas have a great chance to get incorporated. So primarily, we want to hear from you educators. We want you to tell us what you need this platform to be capable of, so we can build it for you. There's an email in the next slide. Please reach out. There's also a public Slack. Just come up, talk to me afterwards. Beyond that, we're also looking for our first bleeding edge customers, the ones that are willing to pay for early software to really shape its future. And maybe that's your organization. If you're a developer, we'd love to get your feedback on our APIs, and we'd love to see your apps on our platform. We'd gladly promote it and feature it even within the app so people see it immediately. That'd be really cool. And finally, we don't want to do the whole VC thing where we want to build something sustainable. It'd be really nice to have some initial funding so we can go from part-time to full-time. We're working 50% starting in 1 week, actually. So that initial funding would be nice to get. So if you happen to be an angel investor or work with grants or something like that, and this future entices you, we'd love to hear from you. And with that, I'd like to thank you for listening, and please email us at info@alloverse.com. Check out our beautiful website, sign up for a newsletter if you want to hear more, and I really hope I get to hear from you and even to see you in the Alloverse. Thanks for listening, and I guess we can open up for questions.
Okay, I'll just give everyone the hand raise feature. Everyone has it. Okay, so can you hear me in that space? Okay, so we have Marcia again. Marcia, you've got a question? Let's see if we can get Marcia's microphone working. I struggled last time. Where are you, Marcia?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hello?
Yep.
Oh, hi. Well, I'll be getting in touch with you because I like to identify grants. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's my background. I apologize. I'm still new to this.
No worries.
I identify grants, and there are so many grants that I think will apply to this. And as you said, it doesn't have to be focused on, digitization or just training and development, rehabilitation, for example, prisoners who are about to transition to the outside world. They might use this, and I can identify different grants, and maybe we can coax the prison systems, you understand, into using that. And not only prison, I mean, it's just, as you said, it's got such a realm of possibilities. Every private or industry, public or federal, has a training and development program. And this is not going anywhere. First time I heard about this, it was in 2006 when I was studying my master's degree, and they called it the Internet 2, where the classroom comes to you. And it's great that you guys are pioneers and that you're opening doors to all of us in order for us to be your voice everywhere we go. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. We really want to build. There's so much you can do with this technology, but we're all six of us are really passionate about education in all its forms. We really want to build tools for specifically that. We have applied for Swedish state grant, Vinnova, for example, stuff like that. But I'd love to hear about more. That's a great way to kickstart this without, getting VC money involved. So I really appreciate that. Let's keep in touch. Thanks.
Okay, right. We have Thomas now has a question. I believe. Thomas, if you're there, let me just get your megaphone on if we can. Okay, there you go. You should be able to speak now, Thomas.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Thomas.
Great. Hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for that presentation. The Alloverse seems fantastic, and I can imagine projects similar to Alloverse being kicked off by people maybe all around the world right now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm a design educator. I teach interaction design here in Vancouver, Canada. And a lot of what I do is to do with prototyping. And I can imagine your project evolving, and I'm wondering if you have methods around prototyping in terms of like low fidelity or high fidelity prototyping. So Do you make smaller incremental steps? How does Alloverse evolve, and how can we evolve it? Does it happen like with more? I mean, is it getting into the digital tools right away, or can we start with conversations?
I think the conversation is starting now. I'm a hardcore developer myself. I like to build things with code and see how that feels. That's not gonna scale. So I've started some design documents to start to make that standard that I talked about. But there is so much to explore, and that's part of the reason why it's open source. I really want input on, or really want input on, how do we design this in a way that's intuitive, that still doesn't make it feel like we lose all innovation, but make something really nice and easy to use. And I haven't used a lot of prototyping tools in VR, so I'm about to explore that. So if you want to reach out and send me some links, I'd love that. I've seen Marquette. I'd love to try that out. I haven't done it yet.
Sure. I guess I'm just wondering, I've seen Alloverse now, you presented it to me, and I'm a designer and I know how to evolve projects like this. Do I just kind of start doing it on my own and kind of show it to you? Or do you have a way of collaborating?
We have a public Slack. I'd love you on there. So
cool. Okay.
Yeah, just email me or reach out to me afterwards, and I'll get you in. Definitely. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Right, let me just have a look, see if we've got any other questions at the moment. We have Sharp C, I believe. Sharp C, let me just put your megaphone on for you. And you should have the megaphone on now.
Hey, Sharp C.
Sharp C, can you hear us?
I think that might have been on since the last session.
Let's have a look. Hold up, I don't think his megaphone's on. Let me try one more time.
Oh, okay.
Unless he's turned it off. Sharp C, do you have a question?
I had it a second, and now I lost your sound.
Oh. All right.
Well,
okay, we can hear
you now.
He's really quiet.
I wanted to
come over.
comment about.
Oh, did we? Am I the only one not hearing him?
I've just switched. His megaphone keeps switching off. I'm not sure what's happening there.
Oh.
It should. Yep, it's just turned itself off again. So that I'm not sure if he can hear us either. So I'm just going to message him and let him know.
Okay. Oh, technology, huh? Why am I?
We're still trying to figure it out, but we're a continual state of progress with all technology. It's fine.
Yes, that's it. I'm not sure why I'm a programmer, given how much it really, all of it sucks, but it's still so much fun building for it. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, you kind of hate it but love it. That's
exactly. Yeah. Oh, there he is.
Right. 1 second. Let's see if we can get this mic working. Right, saying your megaphone's on, Sharp C. Do you know if you can hear us? Can you try and speak again? Okay. Perhaps connection issues there then. Sharp C has gone. Let's see if we've got any other questions lined up. No?
I think that was it.
If anyone has any questions, do you want to raise your hand?
Or we can just turn off audience mute, and we can meet down here and talk if you want to chat further. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Please stay and chat for a while. Really appreciate having an audience here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, everyone's mics are open, so if you want to speak, feel free. Yeah. But let's give some love. Let's give some love. Emojis going. Thanks for that. That was awesome.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Turn off the stream.